Hey everyone. So these next two lessons I'm doing together as one video. It's technically sections 4.4 and 4.5, and they're on something called congruence shortcuts. So what we learned last time was that in order for triangles to be congruent, all of their angles and all of their sides have to be congruent. So today in this lesson, we're going to talk about how there are some shortcuts to determine triangle congruency. So you don't necessarily have to know all of the angles and all of the sides are congruent. So there are 4 shortcuts that work, and we'll go through those now. I do want to say that these notes, I gave you paper copies of the notes last week, but I left the paper copy at school, of course. So I had a similar version. The only thing is I just don't know if these letters, like here, if these letters are in the same spots or are even the same as the ones that you have. So if you do have a printer and you'd rather just print this new copy, that might be helpful, or you can just change the letters on the ones that you have. So sorry about that. Okay, so the first shortcut for triangle congruency is called side, 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 also known as SSS. And basically what side, side, side says is if the sides, well, I guess I should say, if the 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to the 3 sides of a second triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So that's side, side, side. And so this first example is a perfect example of side, side, side. You want to look at what's marked in the figures, see how there's this side is congruent to this side. So that's one pair of sides. So that's one S. Then this side is congruent to this side. So that's 2 S's. That's another pair of sides. And then this one and this one are congruent. So that's where side, side, side comes in. So what is marked? All 3 sides. So are they congruent? Yes, they are. We would say by side, side, side. And then to fill in the congruent statement. So then for that, you want to remember, look at the order that I have for the first triangle. So D, E, C, I went down the side that has 2 tick marks, down the side that has 3. So we're going to do the same thing here. Down the side with 2, down the side with 3. So the matching order would be R, B, M. So there's the first one. This second example, notice, has 2 pairs of sides that are marked. So it's not quite enough. However, in one of my classes, either period 1 or period 2, I forgot, I talked about how this right here, SH, is also known as a shared side. I call it a shared side because it's in both of the triangles. So when you have something like this, a shared side, you can mark it as congruent to itself. And the reason why we can do that is because of the reflexive property of equality, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But anytime you have a shared side like this, you need to mark it. So you might want to make yourself a note. Mark shared sides congruent. So now that I marked that shared side, now I have 3 pairs of sides. I have this pair, and then this pair. So 1, 2, 3. So yes, these are congruent by side, side, side. And then let's do the congruent statement. So let's see, I did ISH, down the side that has 3, down the side that has 1, down the side that has 3, down the side that has 1. So it's going to be ESH. So that's side, side, side. Before we do the next one, I need to talk about something called an included angle. So 2 sides and the angle that they form is called an included angle, and I'll show you on this example. So if you look at this triangle ABC, if I wanted the included angle for, say, AC and BC, the included angle is basically like the angle where the 2 sides touch. So it would be angle C. So to fill in these blanks, angle C is the included angle for segment AC and segment BC. There's also something called an included side, which we're going to use in a little bit. So an included side is the side that connects 2 angles, or you can think of it as like a side in between 2 angles. So let's say we still had ABC. And so let's say I had angle A and angle B that I was looking at. So this angle here and this angle here. The included side for those two angles is this one. Do we see how AB connects the two angles? It's sort of like between them. It's part of both of them. So we would say that segment AB is the included side for angle A and angle B. So included angle is the one that we're going to use right now. Included side we'll use in a little bit. Okay, so our next shortcut is called side angle side. And so side angle side says if two sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to two sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Basically, you need to have two sides and an included angle in both triangles. That's called side angle side. So say this is one pair of sides, this is two pairs of sides. It would have to be this angle here in both of the triangles in order for it to work. So side angle side in both triangles. It has to be the included angle in both triangles for it to work. So let's take a look at example 3. Notice in this one I have two pairs of sides. I have this one and this one, and then this one and this one. So I have a side and a side. Notice we have some vertical angles, so we can mark those. Now do we see how we have side angle side in both triangles? A side, an angle between them, and a side. So these, yes, they are congruent. We would say by side angle side. And then to fill in the statement, let me switch colors. So W-I-N. So from W to I to N, I went down the side with 2 tick marks, down the side with 3. So I'm going to go down the side with 2, down the side with 3. So it would be R-I-T. Be the matching order. Let's look at example 4. So example 4, I notice I have side angle side here. But notice over here, I have a side, and then an angle. Do we see how this angle is not in between the two sides? So this angle would have to be here in order for this to work. Since these markings don't match, we would say no. Well, no can go down here. Yeah, we don't need to write no right here. What we will write here is the reason why. So you don't fill in this, you don't fill in this, but we do need to write a reason why. So they're not congruent because the markings don't match. You could also say it's not side angle side in both of the triangles. Like in one of them it's side angle side and the other one it's side angle. And side angle doesn't work. So I'm just going to say markings don't match. If they did both match, but they were like this one where it was side angle, you would just say like side angle doesn't work or something like that. Okay, so far we've done side, and side angle side. Those are the first two shortcuts. Let's do the last two. So the next one is called angle side angle. And it says if two angles and the included side of one triangle are congruent to two angles and the included side of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Oh, whoops, I forgot to write down the letters here. Give me 1 sec. Okay, so the letters I chose for the one that I uploaded, I had H, O, L, Y, D. Okay, so for this one, I noticed that I already have one pair of angles and I have one pair of sides. So if I mark these vertical angles, do we see how I have another pair of angles? So I have angle, side, angle. That's what this one is, angle, side, angle. So two pairs of angles and the side that connects them. So we would say that yes, these are congruent. This supposed to be a by here. Angle, side, angle. And now let's look at the statement. So let's switch to red. So I went H-O-L, H-O-L. So from the one with one angle marking to the blank 1 to 2. So let's see, 1 to blank to 2. So it's going to be YDL. Okay, this one over here I had labeled as a G here, an E, an O, and an M. Okay, so for this one, notice that this has a shared side. GO is in both of them, so you always want to mark that shared side. And then look at what you have. I have one pair of angles. I have one pair of sides. I have another pair of angles. So this one is also angle, side, angle. So you'd say, yes, they're congruent by angle, side, angle. And then for this statement, let's see, GEO. So from one arc to none to two. So one to none to two, it's going to be OMG. So that's angle, side, angle. And this last one is called angle, angle, side. So this one is still two angles and a side, but now it's a non-included side. So if two angles and a non-included side of one triangle are congruent to the this was supposed to say corresponding. There we go. To the corresponding two angles and side of a second triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Sorry about that. Took me a minute. Oops. Okay. So if you take a look here at example 5, I have this one is marked as congruent to this one. So that's one pair of angles. Here's another pair of angles. And then a pair of sides. So see how it's angle, angle, side, angle, angle, side for both of them. So this would be yes by angle, angle, side, or side, angle, angle. Some kids choose to put SAA instead. And then let's see for the statement. So I have Y, Z, X, Y, Z, X. So down the side, so starting with 3 arcs to no arcs to 2. So 3 to none to 2. So it's going to be M, N, L. Okay, and then let's look at number 6. So number 6, I have this angle and this angle, this angle and this angle. By the way, you don't have to label them like this. I'm just doing this to show you what it is I'm doing. So you want to look at the markings. So it looks like we have 3 pairs of angles and then 3 pairs of angles. Notice that we have no sides marked as congruent here. So notice also that we have not learned a shortcut that's called AAA. And that's because if you just have the angles, it actually doesn't work. So just having the angles does not make them congruent. You always need at least one side to be congruent. You cannot just add in a side. Like if you go back to, sometimes kids get confused because they're like, well, in an example like example 2, you marked that side as congruent. And okay, yes, that's because they were touching. So if the triangles are not touching, you cannot add anything in. So this one does not have enough information is what I meant to say, not any. It doesn't have enough information because you always need at least one pair of sides. So I would say no, they're not congruent. And what you could say for a reason is you could say like angle, angle, angle is not enough information, or angle, angle, angle doesn't work. Something like that. Or you could say like you need another side mark, or you need a pair of sides marked. If you just had one pair of sides marked here, it would be enough to say they're congruent. But we don't. So when just the angles are congruent, they're actually called similar triangles, which that's the next unit. So just to quickly recap, the 3 shortcuts that work are side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle. Don't mind the hammering. And angle, angle, side. The ones that do not work are angle, angle, angle. Not enough information. Also side, side, angle. Or angle, side, side. However, I'm not going to write it as angle, side, side because think about what that would spell. So a lot of times that's the way kids remember which one doesn't work. The one that spells angle, side, side. Anyway, so that's that for congruent shortcuts. The practice for today hopefully should be pretty easy, but if sometimes at first it can be a little tricky to even like understand what's going on, but all of the examples are just like ones like this, like the examples that we did here. So mark any vertical angles, mark any shared sides, and then see what you have and fill in the congruent statement if they're congruent. All right, that's it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. All right, have a great day.